Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of your hosts, and today I'm only joined by Jim. Alberto had something important to do.
Family, some kind of anniversary? If
Anniversary, yeah. Having to spend the evening with his wife. She even said she gave him permission to record the podcast, but he said no.
Now, wait a minute. I thought that he was traveling to see his family, and I thought it was his parents' anniversary. It's his anniversary?
It's his anniversary with the wife, is the way I read it.
I thought it was mom and pops, and I know that they're avid listeners. Regardless, happy anniversary to whoever in the Berto family is, celebrating and all that good stuff.
Yes. Family stuff is important, so we want them to have a good time. They're up there. They're further north than you are right now, Jim. Mm-hmm. So they're probably freezing their tails off. But
it's only October, Chris. I mean, it's not like we're at the North Pole or anything.
Weston and Minnesota already has snow, so it's been an early cold year for some, at least. Down here, it was 74. I was in shorts and t-shirts all day.
You enjoy that, brother. You enjoy that.
Your pretty much. My time will be mid-40s. Yeah, and rainy. It will be rainy. Mid-40s and rainy, so it won't be too bad. So what's going on with you, Jim? What's new?
What is new? Let's see here. Trying to think. You caught me off guard asking what's new because I wasn't really prepared for that. Getting ready for a change at work. I work for a local bank, and in less than 3 weeks, we're going to be moving into a new building. So that's kind of exciting, especially with all the craziness of COVID and whatnot. So that's coming up. I shared with you, and Berto, I believe I have an addiction problem to outdoor Christmas decorating. And this past weekend, I saw something on Facebook Marketplace that was about an hour away from me that was kind of a holy grail of things. And the guy thought, oh, this isn't going to happen, whatever. And he got hundreds of text messages and calls. But fortunately, a mutual friend of that gentleman and myself, even an hour away, was able to finagle some things for me. And lo and behold, I'll be able to get a Santa Claus up on my roof in a few weeks once the weather is right. And it's after Halloween. Mm-hmm. You got to wait till after Halloween at least. Yeah. So, but when you only have a 2-car garage and one vehicle and you're now stacking stuff to the ceiling, there might be a 12-step program that I need to participate in.
Yeah, at least I
don't drink that much. I don't smoke. I try to do other things right in my life. So if this is the one thing, a bunch of electrical cords outside for 3 months a year, it's not so bad. So that's where I'm at. How about you, sir?
Life is good. Keeping on. At this point, we are in week 4 of the Carnivore Keto Cut. This is the October 20th is when we're recording this. And so I'm in my lowest macros of the plan. And so I will be on these macros for at least 3 weeks. I actually talked with Danny a little bit the other day because I'm just now starting to really see the needle move. And he kind of said, as long as you don't decrease the calories any further, if you wanted to extend this trough at the bottom of the taper down and then taper back up process, extending that by a couple weeks probably isn't going to hurt anything, but that I should expect to continue to see fat loss over the following weeks, even as I'm tapering my macros back up to what he's calling is normal. So my big deal on that is I'm actually feeling like I'm eating a normal amount of food now, which I ran the numbers 3 times sideways. Like I did, I filled out the charts and made sure that the numbers that I was working with were accurate as best as I could. I even got a DEXA scan at the beginning of this thing. So I know what my overall fat percentage, which was part of what this was based off of, should have been to start with. And so I've been working the system as best as I can, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things that I've been enjoying the process, definitely been enjoying, yet struggling to get into the gym on a consistent basis. That's that love-hate relationship / too busy for my own good, type of situations. So trying to deal with all of that as well. But yeah, it's been good. I'm 2 weeks into wearing a continuous glucose monitor, and that's been showing me some really interesting things. Being full on carnivore and being very strict about it, I'm not seeing these major spikes like I had before whenever I wore one for a couple weeks. But I'm seeing, because I'm basically getting zero reaction from my food, I am getting these small dips and rises and things like that are kind of behavioral to a degree. I'm also going to experiment a little bit with something like making chicken breasts and chicken thighs the same way, and then eating one day and eating the next day at roughly the same time, and seeing what the reaction is in my glucose, and seeing if the fat content in 2 different cuts of the same animal has on my glucose and whatnot. That was suggested by the nutritionist that kind of works with the NutriSense program that I'm doing. Kind of something to try to modify things without having to spike my insulin or anything like that, which of course I'm trying to keep as low as possible throughout the cut. So there's a lot of balls in the air right now, but it's all been good and exciting and a little bit fun, at least. It's enjoyable. So my inner biohacker is enjoying the process, at least.
That's all that matters, Chris.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's get into shout outs real quick. Jim, go ahead and go, and then I'll follow up.
So I wish I had a little bit more detail about this gentleman, but my shout out, we talked about this, I think we did last week, and we had this challenge of sorts, or we had 2 or 3 guys that posted up pictures of themselves standing in one leg of 2 of an old pair of pants. And Tristan posted his photo up just a couple days back. At his highest, he said, back in 2012, he was at 680 pounds. And now he is down to 380 and continuing on with things. And actually, when you look at him, I don't see 380. I really don't. The pants are they're not even like sweatpants. They're the cotton pants that you wear to bed, almost pajama bottoms kind of thing. Yeah. And when you get to that size, you're not wearing pleated pants. You're not wearing slim fit jeans, anything like that. You're probably going to be in exactly what Tristan's showing off here. Elastic pants. Yeah. So, and actually he is originally from Texas, but he is an Alabama man. And so my shout out is Tristan for making some awesome progress and continuing on the road I started to say he won't be in any legs of his pants, but that doesn't make any sense at all. So, yeah.
Smaller pants. Yes.
Maybe he can get he and his family in his old pants when he gets down to his goal weight. So there's my shout out. What about you, sir?
I have Andrew Corbett, and he posted a couple series of pictures there, apparently going back as far as 2018, I believe, is what this is shown. But he's definitely been working hard, definitely cutting the fat, and he says that he's 330 pounds down to 193 pounds. So his lowest weight was 193 pounds. He kind of came back up after lifting heavy and building some muscle up and things like that to about 213. But he looks fit. He looks nice and filled in. He did have a little bit of loose skin and kind of that lower weight, but it's filled in a little bit nicely through working out and building that muscle up. He says that he's currently on keto, 18-hour intermittent fasting, 4 times a week. He's doing weights and 5 times cardio 1-hour sessions per week. And then he's doing CrossFit once a week. So he's working a ton. He's working his tail off, quite literally. And then he's got a couple other details here. He's really just working it and seeing some really great results. And so good job to Andrew for continuing to work and push through and pursue the results, the goals that he has for himself. That's awesome. Yeah. We said that we weren't going to mention it, but I'll mention it real quickly. By the time this airs, the pre-orders for our merch sales will have closed. and they will have gone to our printer, and hopefully, we don't know exactly the turnaround time, but our goal is absolutely to get our merch out to you just as quickly as possible so that you can enjoy it for the holidays. So be on the lookout for emails confirming all of that with shipping information, things like that. So some good stuff there. Any other club business that we need to address?
Nope, I think just keep on keeping on and everything. I know that we talked about it in a recent show of the winter situation and the seasons and hunkering down for some hearty stews and things like that. So just continue to be mindful of things and keep on keeping on. One step forward is a step forward.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, we do have a guest this week. We have Randall Johnston on the line. He's going to be sharing his story with us, and we're glad to have him. Welcome to the show. Well, Randall, let's start out with the basics here. You kind of know the rigmarole. I know that you kind of ran through all the podcasts, so you've heard how we go through it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's just kind of get us an introduction to who Randall is.
All right, so I'm a 32-year-old bachelor living in Phoenix, Arizona. Just recently found the group and so joined in, and I decided that I'd be crazy and I would take the 75 hard challenge. And I listened to your guys' podcast while I was outside doing my walks. I started keto back on September 9th of 2018. At that time, I weighed 325 pounds. I think I may have been heavier at points because I look back at some of my pictures and I'm like, that I look bigger than what I thought I was at my biggest. But I weighed in this morning at 228.6 pounds, so almost 100 pounds down. But yeah, I drive a cab, so try to be as healthy as I can while being out on the road. Yeah, pretty much. That's it.
No.
Cab driver is probably an interesting occupation with COVID and everything right now, huh?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of downtime. I mainly service a contract for the government, and so that slowed down a lot. But there's people still got to get to the grocery stores, and so I've got my mask, I've got my isopropyl alcohol, spray down the car after every passenger, run people to the stores and out on their errands and whatnot. We're kind of opening back up, and so it's kind of recovering. It's still a little slow, but it's definitely been interesting seeing people's reactions to it. Some are absolutely terrified and are germaphobes, and others just don't care.
I mean, well, if they're getting into a cab, I would think that they would understand that it's not going to be like brand new car smell, fresh sheets, things like that. I mean, there's potential that somebody's been in the car before them.
Yeah, but there's some people who they have like their rubber gloves on, their latex gloves. They've got they have like those medical masks and then a face shield attached to it. And I'm just like, okay, those are a little redundant, but sure. And it's like, I got my mask on. I spray down the car after every passenger. So it's like, I get enough isopropyl alcohol on me that I don't really bother with gloves because I'm only touching the steering wheel. Mm-hmm. So, but I've worked every day since it started. I've not gotten sick. So I've been lucky in that way. And I still take my precautions and I just hope for the best. Mm-hmm. Definitely doing keto has helped a lot because I ate like crap before I started keto, and I'm sure that my immune system would have fallen victim to it, but I rarely get sick, and I attribute that to keto. I used to get sick often and just like common flu and whatnot, but since I started, my immune system seems to have recovered, and I'll feel the effects of a sickness for maybe a day or two, and then I've bounced back.
That's been my option for a lot of people that are ketogenic carnivores that have been working the system and really staying true to it. They absolutely have they absolutely have the immune system necessary to be able to handle what it is that whatever sickness it is. It could be the standard flu or a cold. They'll, just like you described, they'll see it for a day or two. They'll feel down a little bit. It won't stop them. And then it's gone and they don't even realize it, that type of thing. So I'm hoping that's the way it is for you for sure, because we want you to remain healthy, being exposed to strangers on a day-to-day basis. I'll be flying here in a couple weeks, and it will be my first time flying during this period of COVID, and so I'll have to wear my mask for long periods of time and things like that, and it will be okay. It will be fine. I'm not worried about that. My only concern actually is really concerning my parents, because they're a little bit older and they have some conditions that do actually leave them a little more susceptible than the average Joe. So I'm wanting to make sure that I'm healthy and that I don't catch something so that I don't give it to them. And that's really what I'm mainly concerned about. So yeah, some good stuff for sure. So tell us a little bit about the genesis of your health journey. Like, where were you health wise? What conditions were you dealing with? Was it just eating like crap? What was your highest weight? Things like that led into going into you trying to fix it.
Okay. So I've always been the big kid, just like from the age of like 4 or 5, I was always chunky. And then as years went on, that chunky became overweight and then obese. And I would say that there's times where I went into the morbidly obese range. But through like junior high and high school, I kept getting bigger and bigger, mainly because my family, we weren't the most well off. I was raised by a single mom, and so unfortunately the cheapest thing out there is carbs. So ate lots of pasta, bread, dollar store Totino's pizzas type things, and those, while tasting good, don't really fill you up. So that led to having multiple of them. And I was a growing boy, so my mother let me have them. And I don't blame her. I would probably do the same thing if I had kids. But I got up, I was over 250 pounds in high school for sure. I tried losing weight before. I think it was in 2013, 2014. I seen 294 on the scale, and I was like, I don't want to break 300. I don't want to see that number. So I started going to the gym, and I was following your typical bro science diet. I was eating a lot of rice and mixed vegetables and chicken and fish. And I'm lucky in a way that I can eat the same thing day in, day out, and I don't get bored of it. So for about 6 months, I had a half cup of rice, half cup mixed vegetables, and 6 ounces of chicken breast for lunch every day. And then I got really big into lifting weights, and then I ended up hurting myself. I was also your typical gym bro in that I didn't stretch properly. And so I was in the middle of doing squats, and I ended up compacting my lower spine because my hamstrings were over tightened. Or at least that's what the chiropractor told me after I couldn't put the weight back down, put it back up, and then tried squatting again and couldn't even get the bar out the rack. And so I ended up having to quit my job because I was a caregiver for developmentally disabled adults, and I could no longer pick them up out of their wheelchairs. I had no strength whatsoever. So my roommate at the time was a cab driver, so he suggested that I get into cabbing. And I was like, well, I'm going from being active, going to the gym. I was like, all right, well, I do need to recover. So started cabbing, and I fell in love with it. I love driving. The only problem was I was now working a lot more hours, so didn't really even have time to go to the gym for cardio or recovery stuff. And then I didn't have a fridge or a microwave to have my pre-cooked food, and so I started eating out more often. So I started doing McDonald's. I started doing like just Burger King. Anything that was quick, I would pull through. I'd grab some food and I'd just keep going. And that included stopping at the convenience store and getting soda. I had a pretty severe soda addiction. I used to drink over a gallon of Dr. Pepper a day, if not a gallon and a half. And that was normal for me. So when my highest that I seen on the scale was 325, I stopped weighing myself for a while. So chances are it got higher than that. But I have a friend who he tried keto, and he talked about it to me when we were out on a camping trip with our church. And I was your typical, oh, I can't do that. I love steak and potatoes. I can't give up that. I can't give up my fries. I can't give this up. And then a couple months later, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. My knees ached, my shoulders ached, just everything was in pain most of the time. I had trouble walking. I used to be known as the guy in one of my group of friends. We used to play the Pokemon Go a lot. I was known as the guy who didn't walk. They would go to a park to walk around the park. I wouldn't go. I'd go somewhere else and I would drive around. I like that. One of my sayings was, I don't walk. And so I started keto, and then I got the crazy idea that I wanted to go to the Netherlands, but I couldn't walk. So I decided to start taking my health more seriously. Started working on losing the weight, started doing DPY, and just really focused more on the nutrition side of it. And so I went from 325 in September on September 9th of 2018. I think that first week I dropped like 14 pounds, but I also went cold turkey on soda. I hit 248 by it was April 28th of 2019. I went to the Netherlands for 2 weeks, had a blast, walked between 10 to 15 miles a day, ate whatever I wanted because I was walking 10 to 15 miles a day and it was my first time in Europe. So the problem was when I came back and started driving again, I didn't go back to keto. And so still ate whatever I wanted. I was still having some soda, would still drink some regular, sometimes some diet, and then went to New York with some friends, and we decided that we wanted to go to a nicer restaurant. So I got a suit jacket from a tailor made, and it was probably about a month between me buying the jacket and going to Manhattan that when I put on the jacket barely felt. And so that was my wake up call that I needed to get things back under control. So came back from New York and got up, back on the scale, and I was back up to 275, and that was, I want to say, the end of October, the beginning of November of 2019. And so right now I'm down to about 228, like I said earlier. I seem to be fluctuating between the 230, 235 mark. My body likes to do things in 5 pound increments. I hovered around the 240 to 245, then got down to 235, 240. And so now I'm hoping that I'm in the 225 to 230 increment range, but we'll see. I'm doing the group coaching with the Keto Road, John, Shane, and so they have me cutting down my calories right now. I'm doing 2,000 a week. Next week I go down to 1,900. They have me going down 100 each week, all the way down to 15. And then I'll reverse my diet, going back up by 100 each week until I get to a sustained weight gain of a couple pounds. And then I think I'm going to pick up doing the carnivore keto cut after seeing the success that Berto had. And so my goal is by the time I'm 35 to at least look halfway as decent as him.
Number one, I mean, Berto's kind of a beast, and you're really pumping him up when he's not even here. So I'm not sure that's the coolest thing to do right now, because now he's going to lord it over us. Like, oh, look, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Man, you've lived a lot of life in your 30-some years. When you going back to earlier, you were talking about, always being a big kid. Any siblings? Or you said single mom, if I'm not mistaken. Were you all bigger kids, or what? Was that just because of, here's what the food is on the table and it's mac and cheese and let's go with it kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I'm actually the youngest of seven, but my three older brothers were out of the house by the time I was born. I have nephews and nieces older than me. So, but my mom, my mom worked like 70 hours a week, and so it fell down to my oldest sister, well, my older sisters, to figure out the food part when mom wasn't home. And so it was mainly a lot of pasta dishes, goulash, mac and cheese, just a pound of ground beef with some pasta, throw in a sauce, and all right, well, that's dinner. And there generally wasn't leftovers. Like my family, I definitely got the largest out of all of my family. Like my sisters, they're not skinny, but I wouldn't call them fat or overweight either. So, but it's like they're definitely like smaller than me. Don't know like how else to phrase it, but so
Okay,
I think that's everything you asked.
you're good. Were you a Husky kid, a Husky Jeans kid by chance? That was something that you're a little bit younger than me, but that was a thing at like Sears, J.C. Penney, Montgomery Ward. Like there was the boys' clothes, but then there was the Husky section. which, was if you had the larger waistline kind of thing.
We didn't shop at stores like that, but if we did, I would probably have definitely been in that area. We were more of a thrift shop and Walmart
Mm-hmm.
type. And so
nothing wrong with that.
But no, I still go to Walmart to pick up clothes and whatnot. I even like the jeans that my smallest size of jeans I just now recently started wearing size 34. I bought them all at Costco. So clothes are just clothes to me. Wherever they come from, as long as they fit you good and they make you feel good, that's all that matters.
Very cool. So Randall, let's talk about what you're doing the 75 hard now and this stuff. Talk about what fitness is like now. You went from the guy who doesn't walk to now you spend a very large portion of your day walking. How has that mindset changed? How does the body feel? How's it healing up after injuring yourself? Things like that.
So, I finished my first round of 75 hard, and I'm crazy enough that I've decided I'm going to start it again, starting tomorrow, actually. I waited till tonight so I could have a little bit of liquid courage to calm my talking with you guys, but it feels so much better. Like, I still have some knee pain, but I do my yoga to help out with that. My joints very rarely hurt. I do take a supplement to help out with the joints, mainly because the knee will cause me issues, but I also think that's due to my job. Driving and holding my foot in the same position leads to some aching. But I want to start trying to get into jogging so I can get into running, but still having to deal with that mindset that even though I am physically capable of running, my mind is like, no, we're too big. We don't run. That's going to destroy our knees. That's not healthy for us. We're not going to do that. So that's something that I'm working on challenging myself to this next 75 is to at least start jogging. But my feet don't hurt just from walking around or standing. I used to sit down whenever I could when I went to the store. I never got one of those mobility scooters, mainly because I was too proud to, but I totally would have rocked one of them if I didn't see other people. But I don't really feel any pain. My flexibility is increased. One of the things I recommend that all guys do is yoga. I know a lot of people are like, yoga, I ain't doing yoga, that's for women. No, it's for everybody. Flexibility is important to our health. If you can't bend over to tie your shoes, that means you can't bend over to pick up your kids. Well, if you have any younger ones. But so that's one of the things that I think a lot of guys need to focus on. That's why I love seeing some of the guys posting their videos of them doing yoga. I've not gotten to the point where I'm videotaping myself regularly doing yoga that I don't speed up, but I definitely enjoy just scrolling through the group and seeing what some of the other guys are doing. Like, forget who it was that was doing the mace fitness, but I've been looking at picking up a mace just because it sounds fun.
That would be JJ.
Okay.
Yes,
So,
it does sound fun. I watch his videos and I'm like, I really need that. And then I remind myself how many gadgets and gizmos I have here at the house and how I'm not self-disciplined enough to use them. I have to go to the gym. In fact, Crystal, my wife, was saying this morning, why do you have to go to the gym? You can work out here. And my response was, it's a mindset thing. I have to go there because that's where I work out. And she's like, Anyway,
I totally get you.
So the mace thing. And the really cool thing that I think I would like to benefit from on the mace side of things is the fact that the whole idea of it is imbalance. It's weightlifting with imbalance worked in because you've got heavier weight on one side than the other. And so you're activating all of the stability muscles that you need to be able to do the same movement, but one side weighted and one not. And so I think that for someone in your shoes that's having to heal and rebuild, that's actually a really great way to work out because you're going to build all that stability that you need to continue to heal and strengthen and get everything back to where it needs to be. So
let me ask one other quick thing before talking about flexibility. So Give me one, if not two examples, Randall, of things how your flexibility has increased. Like, you mentioned the tying your shoes and whatnot, but give me like some. Before I could barely touch my toes, now I can put my palms on the ground, or I can beat anybody in a limbo contest. What's your pride and joy on the flexibility side?
I would probably say my body weight squat. I used to struggle getting my knees past 90%, and it's still a struggle at times because my knee is still one of, I would say, probably my weakest body part. But I can get almost down to the ground now. Getting out is still a challenge, but I'm doing the whole DDPY. I've heard a couple other guys mention it, but I hope to, by the end of July next year, to be able to do it's in the DDPY, they call it the standing roundhouse. So where I'll be standing on one leg and have the other leg held up and extended out, holding onto my foot. That's one of my goals, is to be able to get to that. But I'd say one of my other flexibilities is just being able to like bend over and then be able to breathe. Because I used to, like, when I went to tie my shoes, I would hold my breath because I would struggle to breathe. I would come back up and I would have to take in a deep breath. But it's just my flexibility. I'm able to actually do that now. I'm able to stretch my legs out a lot more when I'm on the mat. And so just my range of motion has just improved overall.
That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about nutrition at this point. You're on a cut with the coaching group right now, and those are some pretty aggressive caloric cuts like that. I don't know where you started, but just for perspective, in comparison to the carnivore keto cut, you're bottoming out 500 calories lower than what I will be.
Yeah.
And some of that's because ours is based off of a slightly different mindset, different principle. Both can be effective and all of that type of thing. So I'm not, John and Gormy, they know what they're doing. They've been there. They've done that for real. They've done it. So I know that you can do it, and that they're going to make sure that you're going to be okay as you do it. So, but talk to us about what it is that you are eating. Are you cutting out specific groups of food? You're obviously eating at least keto, but talk to us a little bit about that.
So I started out the program where I think we're in week 8 of the program. I started out at 2,700 calories, and John and Mike Gormy, they tell us to go down by 50 or 100 each week, keeping our percentages and whatnot. And I've chosen myself to go down by 100. I chose the aggressiveness of it. They work with you about how aggressive you want to be, and they're also willing to flex. Like, if I get down to 1,700 and I'm like, look, I can't go any lower, then I could talk to them about it, and I'm sure that they'd be like, all right, well then let's go back up. 1,500 is the lowest John will recommend his male clients to go down to. And so I just figured 2,700 down to 1,500, 12 weeks. We're doing a 12-week program. That'll be great. And then I'm going to take the 12 weeks to go back up, and then I'm going to try the carnivore keto cut. I've pretty much eliminated all vegetables. Like, I'm practically carnivore. I just recently stopped having my keto bricks just because I'm so down in calories that keto brick shake would take up half of my day calories. And so it was, as much as I loved them and I loved Robert and Crystal, I was like, okay, I need more food. I can't be drinking 1,000 to 1,200 calories in 4 minutes and still be fine the rest of the day. So those have gotten put back up on the shelf for probably about 2.5 months until I'm back up over 2,000 in calories. But it was the episode Hot Meat Doesn't Grind Well, which is an amazing name, and I really hope he makes that book. But the Culinary Lion, Frank talked about his werewolf grind, and I now call it my werewolf grind, and I get so many questions about that. People are like, why do you call it werewolf? And I'm like, I don't know, the guy who said it, who I heard about it, called it that, so that's what I call it.
Yeah.
So I reached out to a butcher. I had mine made of a different percentage. I ordered 10 pounds of it, but it's 10% beef liver, 40% beef heart, and 50% just regular ground beef. And you can't even taste the liver or the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I took a video of me trying it the first time, expecting to notice something, and I didn't notice anything. I don't know if it's just because the way I seasoned it, but I noticed nothing. And so I've been doing that. I'm trying to clean up. I'm trying to stop having the Duke sausages, but those used to be one of my guilty pleasures that were still keto, that I would be able to, it's like, oh, I didn't meal prep. I've not done the best of prepping. I'll stop in at the convenience store and I'll just grab one of those. And yeah, it's expensive, but it kept me keto and they tasted good. So I'm actually working on eliminating those. I'm trying to cook more. One of the things I tend to do, I think I posted a quick little video of it, is I call them my beef scrambles. I've had a blend. Well, I've had to mix 2 pounds of two different fat percentages to get closer to my macros, because I did buy a lot of 27% meat, and then I combined that with 88-12 to kind of make like an 80-20, because I was hit my fat macros and I was struggling to hit my protein. And John laughed at me. He's like, dude, your meat is way too fatty. You need a leaner cut. And so started doing that to do that. But I'll take 2 pounds of that, brown it in a pan, and then I'll crack a dozen eggs over it, and that'll be 4 meals. And so I cook very simple things. I love my air fryer, so I'm gonna start trying to do some more experiments in that. But I used to make a thing. I haven't made them recently because I got lazy. But they were keto imitation of the Starbucks egg bites, and so I've got that mold. I would throw that in there and I'd steam it up and I'd have those for breakfast. But I got lucky, scored a ridiculous deal on steak where it was cheaper than ground beef. It was pretty much like 3 something a pound. So I ended up getting, I think, close to 30 pounds of that. And so I'm working my way through that, working my way through the werewolf grind. I'm going to definitely order that again. I think I'm going to try doing ground round instead of ground beef the next go round. But yeah, I try not to rely on fat bombs like I did earlier on in my keto journey. I would just use like the Orgain keto protein powder mixed with some coconut oil and throw that in my freezer in molds, and that would be my fat bombs. That was my dessert. But I'm trying to now incorporate those fats into my regular meals. I'll include more butter in my eggs. One of John's little hacks is he puts a tablespoon of butter per egg. And it sounds like it's a lot, but the eggs are delicious. Like super creamy and just fluffy. They're really good. One of my favorite things to do is I butter sear my steak and then I cook the eggs in the pan after I cook the steak. And so it incorporates well, and it's just absolutely delicious.
Sounds like it. So are you doing OMAD, or what are you doing since you're on the road a good portion of the day? Are you limiting your eating to just when you're at home, or what are you doing now?
Well, I've got a like a lunchbox that I can throw in 2 ice packs in. There's an item I got off of Amazon called a Hot Logic. Basically a lunchbox that you plug in to it's supposed to be plugged into a wall, but I've got I think a converter, it might be an inverter. I forget which. Inverter that plugs into my cigarette lighter spot. So I plug that in, and then I plug the Hot Logic into that, and it will heat my food up to 165 and then hold it at that. So if I bring the food with me, I'll throw it in that, zip it up, just set it on the floorboard while I drive, and then an hour or two, whenever I get a chance to eat, pull over to the side of the road, or most likely pull into a gas station, fill up my water bottle, and I'll eat, because I think it was roughly around the time I started 75 Hard, I gave up all soda. I went from drinking nearly a gallon of soda a day to drinking a gallon of diet soda a day. So I gave those up. I now drink tea. I still have some bangs every now and then. I'm trying to quit those too, even though they're no sugar and whatnot. It's just wanting to quit those as well. I've tried the liquid. I'm actually waiting on another shipment. I tried the strawberry, so I forget which one I ordered. But I mainly do, I guess it'd be more like two meals a day. I used to always, like, one of the meals was the Duke sausages. I would just grab a bag of those, and that had about 500 something calories in it. And then I would just have my keto shake, which my keto brick shake, which was like 1,000 to 1,200 calories, and then I would have something. But that at times and other times that's all I would eat. I got I slacked off a lot when it came to my meal prep after I started making the keto shakes because they were just so good, and I have to make them into a shake because I got braces, and so I'm not able to eat the bricks like they normally are because they would mess up the bracket. So I started melting them in some almond milk, and then I would blend that, and then I started adding. I took a note out of Alberto's handbook, and I started mixing raw eggs into it. One of my friends does Redcon products, and so I got some animal-based protein powder because I was struggling to still hit my protein goals. But after I talked to John, I no longer do that. Struggle to hit them, that is. But I'm now kind of in a transition because since I'm trying to cook all my food at home and only eat out once a week, I'm going to be probably eating something in the morning and then just white knuckling it through the day. If I start to get hungry, just pull over, get some more water. I use Redmond Relight and the Keto Vitals electrolyte mix, and so I find drinking water with that and salting the water definitely helps with hunger cravings and whatnot. Most of the time, I'm just thirsty, not actually hungry, and so I get home. Like right now, I've got steak sitting out, coming up to room temperature before I throw that in the pan. Then gonna make just eggs with that, and so I'm finding my way through. I find that if I don't eat something in the morning, that I get like ravenous around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and so I think just having something in the morning, just quick little meal, is probably what I'm gonna try for the next couple weeks, and then play from there.
You mentioned earlier about going to get your werewolf meat, and I know it's been a minute since you touched on it, but I'm curious what the butcher's reaction was when you gave him the formula. Was it something that he or she had done something similar, or gave you that look of, "Oh, son, you'd have no idea what you're talking about"? Because it's not a common thing from what I've experienced, so I'm curious what the reaction was for you.
Well, I actually placed the order over the phone. I called them up and asked if they did custom grinds, and they hesitantly said yes. And I was like, well, I'm looking to get 10 pounds of ground meat together. And so she's like, all right, well, what meat? And I, from the advice from some of the guys in the group, they were like, well, you need to brine your kidney, because originally I was going to get 10% liver, 20% heart, and 20% kidney. And they're like, well, you should brine that first because otherwise it's going to have a awkward taste. So I asked if they brined it, and they're like, no, we don't brine it. So I eliminated the kidney until I start grinding it myself. So I upped it I told her, I was like, all right, well, then let's do 10% liver, 40% heart, and then the rest ground beef. And she was like, okay, well, I've got some other heart orders, so it's going to take 2 weeks. She didn't seem affected by it at all. The guy who sold it to me, he was a little taken aback by it because when I went in to pick it up, I was like, oh, I gave him my name, and he's like, okay, so we got 10 pounds of, wait, no. He's like, 10% liver, 40% heart. And I was like, yeah, that's my order. And he's like, okay, well, it's this much. And I was like, all right, handed him my card. And so I'm definitely going to go back to them again. I'm just going to play around with my percentages. Like, I'm going to try, instead of the ground beef, I'm going to do the ground round. I think it's only going to be like $1 more a pound, but it'll probably be more satisfying since I love my steak. But I'm open to other suggestions. So if anybody in the group has a blend, or I think if I remember correctly, Frank's was 10% liver, I think 20% heart, and then he had some, I think it was beef bacon, or it might have been pork belly, and then
Pork.
it was, I think he did ground round, or his ground sirloin, or no, his was, I think, the tri-tip, or the
Yeah,
fatty parts of ribs,
brisket,
something like that.
brisket.
Yeah, brisket.
His main meat was brisket. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
So
just
there
I'm
you
gonna
go.
play around with that, especially as I'm gonna try to go full carnivore.
Mm.
And so I
And then,
found it.
no, you go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that I found it ironic that I removed spinach from my diet, and spinach is supposedly an anti-inflammatory, and I stopped being inflamed. And I was like, okay.
These changes and you shifted your diet and gone to the carnivore and everything. I mean, you said earlier that you can eat the same thing day to day and not get bored, but was it hard? What was the hardest part of any of this? Was it the giving up the soda? Was it the giving up of the carb situation? What was the biggest challenge for you in changing the whole way of eating?
It was mainly cutting out sugar. So partly the soda, but one of my biggest things was on the way to the soda machine, and there's the convenience store donut section. And when you lined up to pay for whatever you're getting, you also lined up next to the donut section. And so I would find myself, before I started doing keto, anytime I went in, I would grab one or two, and never really paying attention to the calorie information until I actually fell off the wagon. I think it was back in April, and I grabbed some of the donuts, and then after I ate them up, I looked up the information, and oof,
Mm.
it hit hard. That the three donuts, I had almost 1,400 calories, and I would do that multiple times a day. I honestly do not know how I didn't get bigger than I did, because I definitely ate and drank like I should. So I count my blessings that way, but it was the sugar. Just my body and my mind got addicted to that, and it wanted it in any way that it could get.
Yeah, those and the worst part about it is the gas station style donuts, they're horrible. They're not good. But
Yeah.
I'm like, that's still, out of all the things that I have fallen prey to, that case, close to the registers, of course, is exactly the one that I'm drawn to. And they scream my name saying, "Eat me." And so I know that feeling very much, and whatnot. And the ridiculous part about that is I live in Round Rock, Texas. Round Rock is home of Round Rock Donuts, home of literally the best donuts in the world. They have this
Okay.
unique way of doing them, and they're amazing. But I go for or I've gone previously for the checkout line donuts at the convenience stores because I'm an idiot or something. So I totally, yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's see, we're hitting time now, so we can start wrapping things up a little bit. So what is, let's talk about goals, aspirations, final things that you want to aim for. What are you like, either whether it be a weight thing or body fat percentage or just overall health? What's kind of your target that you're shooting for?
So before I started the 12-week program with the guys, I went and I got a DEXA scan, and it came back that at the time, the machine said I was 238, almost 239 pounds. I had 140 pounds of lean mass. My skeleton was like 7 or 8 pounds, and then I had almost 90 pounds of fat. And so I would like to get my body fat percentage down to around 15 to 18, but I'd like to add about 20 pounds of lean muscle. And I know that's going to be slow going over time. So, ultimate couple years down the road, I would love to be in the 190 to 205 range. I'm not too worried about the number. If I can get down to that body fat percentage range is what my most important goal is, I would say.
Very cool. Yeah, I think looking at body fat percentages is a goal thing versus a certain weight is a good way to go for sure. I didn't catch how tall you are.
I am 5'10".
5'10". So you're just a little bit taller than me. So yeah, that's really, I think that's a good goal.
What's your favorite keto food?
Yep.
Not counting steak. Well,
You know the rule.
You are
You
in
know the
the show. I
rule.
love this. I love this. In episode 9, what did Alberto say at minute 14?
I am not going back to
I've not gone
that.
back and listened to them yet. I haven't gone around listening to them multiple times. I've been tempted. I have pulled up other ones, but I've started listening to, I listen to Gourmet's podcast, and then I'm listening to Yogi's now. But I'm sure as I start doing the 75 hard again, I'm going to cycle back through the podcast. I would have to say, other than butter, would be eggs, just because I find them to be so versatile. And it's like I go to Costco and I get 5 dozen, and it lasts me maybe a week and a half.
You're serious about those eggs?
Yeah.
Scrambled
It's
or
like, other than
omelet or
steak,
deviled, or what do you do with it? Or everything?
I normally just scramble it just because it's easy and I'm lazy. So like just dumping it into a hot pan, incorporating the melted butter into it, and served, and it's delicious. I've done egg bites before. I'm gonna try doing I think it's called a frittata. One of my friends, she's like, well, you pretty much make that, just make it in the oven. I'm like, all right, it's something I'll try. I really, back when I ate bread, I think it was called Eggies in a Basket, where you cut out that circle in the bread and then you fried the egg inside of it. And so I haven't looked up to see if there's a keto substitute for that, because if there is, that's going to be dangerous. Yeah.
See that for
Awesome.
Sure. Well, anything
Sounds
else?
like you're on a pretty solid path, brother.
Gourmet and John have helped out so much, and listening to your guys' podcast has helped out so much. I'm not really able to be on Facebook all that much, like interacting, and so, but I scroll through and I get a shot, and I love the group. I love being able to jump in there, and it's always something different, but it's always something encouraging. Like, I'll see Tony posting his yoga videos. I'll see some of the other guys posting their progress pictures. And it's like, I just posted one today, and it just, like, the group has kind of become a safe place for me to go when it comes to Facebook. Get away from all the political crap, and just an area where guys can be guys, and they don't get ragged on for.
That is what it's all about. That was the whole intent. So glad that it's working out for you.
Absolutely. Well, any other final questions here? I think we've covered most everything that I can think of.
Yeah, we will definitely need to edit out the part where he's complimenting Berto, since Berto's not on the show.
Yeah.
I really think that Berto is a good guy. No, I'm teasing.
We'll see where you're at after your keto cut, and then who knows? You might take over Berto's spot.
Well, Chris is the one that's doing the carnivore cut right now. I'm just trying to survive life at the moment, but there's some things in the works, I hope. So yes, I'm right there with you, brother. And kudos on the success. I mean, I hope that it helps you in many ways, and yeah, you deserve it. And sounds like you're definitely, like I said, on the right path.
Well, thank you again, Randall, for coming on. A quick reminder to we'll get to your community, to how people can connect with you here in a second. But the quick reminder to our listeners who want to connect with the host or the podcast or the Facebook groups or anything, you can find links to everything at theketomansclub.com. And you can reach out to us a number of ways, including through the links on the website, Instagram, the Facebook page, things like that. We also have our voicemail line, which Randall has used. We featured one of his voicemails on a previous recording, and so that number is 512-518-6161. And you can also email us at ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. So you've got a few different ways to reach out, and we'd love to hear from you what you're liking, even maybe what you don't like. And if you have the chance to go over and leave a review, we would love to have you do that so that the algorithm knows that people are listening and interested, and so that others who might be checking out our podcast would be able to get a reading on if they're going to enjoy it themselves. So that all is very helpful. And as we've said pretty much every week on this type of section, it's not about us getting famous as much as we make fun of that. It really is about the lives that are being changed, people that are taking charge of their lives like Randall and trying to get their stories out in front of more people so that more lives can be changed. And so it's all out there for that. So Randall, how can people connect with you online best?
So I'm part of the group, so you can find me on there. But on Instagram, I'm under the tag Remaking Randall. I don't remember if I have the G in Remaking or not. I've had a couple different email accounts with that same name, and I think I migrated it. But you should be able to find me under, if you search my full name, it's Randall Phipps Johnston. You should be able to find me on there. Warning ahead of time, I do post my weigh-in videos in which I'm only in boxers, so browse at your own risk.
It's nothing risque. I can say that for sure. So that's great. And yeah, your content is out there. It's encouraging. It's definitely something that people should follow on Instagram so that they can continue to watch. And you share a good amount of stuff in the Keto Man's Club group of different things. Like you shared a picture of your scramble and things like that. So people can see what he's talking about in the group, and he's got it there for you to be able to see. So once again, thank you for being here with us. We missed Berto, even though we, gave him crap for being gone and all that type of stuff. But we are glad that he's spending time with his family up in the
and he got
north.
a prize. He got an award.
Yes, he did.
We're not going to say what it is, but I'll be anxious for next week's podcast to see if he's put it to use. And yeah,
he did. He got a bit of a prize there, so that's a pretty cool thing. So yeah, we will be back next week as always. And until then, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.